Hi there, welcome to Story Strategy Live. This is Nancy and here's Dawn. And we have a guest today, author Claudia Blood is joining us to be our coaching guinea pig. Hi, Claudia.
Hey, how are you ladies doing?
What did you think about the music?
It was very danceable.
I'm excited. I'm really excited about the music. And I see Julie just commented that she's excited about the music too. So the music is exciting. That makes me happy.
Well, I don't know what StreamYard looks like when you're a guest. Because I think it's my account, so I always see the hosting panel. But I could see you guys both while the music was playing. And everybody was doing it.
It's a little tune. It's got like a little beat to it.
Yeah. So you know what I was doing today. Well, so we are going to talk today about coaching, what story coaching looks like, what happens with a story coach, what kinds of questions you can get answered, what sorts of problems you can solve. And Claudia is she's going to share a little bit about what she's working on, and we're going to help where we can. But the reason why we're doing this, Dawn, you want to explain?
Well, the reason why we're doing this is because we're offering coaching through Teachable now.
Yay.
And so you can go to the Evident Inc. Teachable site, and you can choose if you want coaching with me or if you want coaching with Nancy, and set it all up through that. And that's very exciting.
See, Claudia is lucky today because maybe unlucky actually, because she gets us both.
Yes. Well, and Claudia is very brave, and we're very lucky to have her.
Well, so we will get to you in just a moment, Claudia, but we always tell a funny story. So I think, what did we decide to talk about? Was it Turbo's birthday party that
Yes, I want to hear about the Rage Room, because a Rage Room sounds like a place I could use frequently, several times a day. So I want to hear about the Rage Room.
Have you ever heard of Rage Room? Now you're
breaking up again. Okay, now we got you.
Yeah,
say it again.
I know. Hard. Have you heard of a Rage Room before?
Only on a cartoon, maybe.
Yeah. Well, my internet connection, I'm just going to warn anyone who's watching, is not awesome today, I guess. So I'm going to do the best I can. You may lose me. My older son was turning 13. And when we were talking about what he wanted to do for his birthday, he couldn't have a party necessarily because he has no friends here because we just moved here and COVID. So he has one buddy who moved here before us, and he was like, well, I just want to hang out with him, but we have to do something awesome. And I was like, okay, well, we live in a metro now, so they have everything you can think of. What do you want to do? And he was like, I don't know. What are some ideas? And I was like, they probably even have one of those places where you can go throw plates. And he was like, what? So we start internet, Googling, and I find 2 Rage Rooms here in Denver. And one of them you have to be 18 to go to, but the other one you have to be 13. So I was like, let's look at this. So I signed him and his buddy up for $100 for 20 minutes in a Rage Room, where I selected the package that they would have. And they got to they put on goggles and hard hats. They had to wear long pants, long sleeves, gloves, and closed-toed shoes. They close them in a room with a giant steel door and a video camera. And in the room, well, first they got to select weapons. So they have a crowbar and a sledgehammer, and it was crazy. And then they go in this room together, and we're watching on the closed circuit TV outside, and they just destroy everything in the room. There was a desk, a television, a printer, some dishes. It was hilarious, but they were just
wow.
So they came out completely sweaty, and I was like, so in 20 minutes went really fast. I was like, was that worth it? And they were like, yeah. I was like, okay,
it sounds totally worth it to me. It
so weird.
Absolutely worth it.
Yes.
You could start the Rage Room workout.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, and what a business model, man. They basically rented an old warehouse. They didn't bother putting anything nice in there. Like we sat on folding chairs and there was a smelly old couch. And what do they do? Go to like yard sales, I guess, every weekend and grab stuff for $1. And then like I paid, they wanted an extra, oh, it was a coffee maker. They wanted to destroy a coffee maker. And it was $5 for this old Mr. Coffee. I was like, all right, fine. But they probably got for 50 cents at a garage sale, right?
Probably.
So we should maybe think about that.
I'm totally putting this into a story already. I'm totally like, okay, so if you wanted to go romance, you got the guy who runs the rage room and the girl who shows up with her friends because she got dumped and they're like, we're gonna go, plaster pictures of his face on everything. And the other side of me is like, so it could be a murder mystery.
Yep.
And you find a dead guy in the back of the rage room, and how did he get there? And oops, nobody actually killed him with anything. So yeah.
Now we see how Dawn's brain works.
I was thinking you accidentally break something that bursts you into another dimension, and then you have your fantasy, right? I mean,
and that's a good segue into telling us kind of who you are, Claudia, and what you are working on, what you write.
So I write fantasy and science fiction. And what I am working on right now, and I have to pick a project. I have ADHD when it comes to my stories, as Dawn can attest to. And so the project that I decided to pick on is I have a first book that's called At the Cabin that was a mystery that I turned into an urban fantasy because it was fun. And that story I think works. And so now I'm trying to figure out the second book in the series.
Okay. And so your other books are... So this is urban fantasy, you said, and then I know I've worked on blurbs. So the other ones are more sci-fi because they're on another planet. Is that?
They're on another planet. I'd almost like, I want to call it like science fantasy, like an Anne McCaffrey kind of thing, where the science is kind of there, but it's not like what they experience in their day to day necessarily until later books. So, okay. But yes, it is more science fiction, that one.
Very good. All right. Well, since you and Dawn have already been working together, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
For a long time, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so Dawn, I'm going to let you kind of drive here.
Oh, okay. I love driving.
And I'm much better at
it. I'm much better at it this way than I am in an actual car. Okay, so Claudia was one of my very first story coaching clients. And so she is very brave. We have worked through several of her stories. And a couple of things that are very important when you're starting coaching is it's the same thing we talk about with the editor relationship all the time, is you need to be comfortable with somebody, and you need to be comfortable with somebody liking your idea or not liking your idea. And so
laughing too, and laughing is good. You gotta yes.
We have laughed a lot. We like to have our coaching sessions on Friday afternoons at about 3:00 when we're both like, sure, throw in some ninjas. It'll be fine. Let's do this. But we haven't worked a whole lot on, we worked together on At the Cabin, but we haven't worked on the second book at all. So this is going to kind of be like an actual coaching session would be like. And you will see me writing. It's because during a coaching session, I actually take notes, and then I send the author like a summary of what I got out of things. And if we talked about 15 different things, but we decided on 2, I'm going to send them, okay, here's the things we decided on. Here's your extra ideas that you might want to come back to, but we discarded these. That way the author has that information. So we're going to start off with, okay, so what do you know about the story so far?
So this happens directly after the first book. And I left a little bit of a sort of like a lead into the next book where I've got 2 main characters. I've got Laura and I've got Todd. And Laura has a guardian who's been her guardian since she lost her family. And he comes to her. They just started a detective agency, a supernatural detective agency, in a little small town in Ely, Minnesota. And he comes in to be their client. And so sort of the lead in is that he's being accused of murdering her mother. So,
well, and tell us a little bit. So you said Laura has a guardian, but how old is Laura? Because she's not a
Laura,
child.
she's not a child. Yes, my apologies. She is an adult. She's of legal age. She's what I figure out, mid-20s, something like that. So she's been kind of on her own for a while. She does not live with her guardian. The previous book has a whole she got set up to have her identity taken and serve as a getaway kind of for this big scheme for a long con that was being played on her. But yes, which sounds really weird. So they cleared that all out and they're, moving on to the next. So she's in her mid-20s. So is Todd. Todd is former FBI who left the FBI because of the supernatural. That he had a bad incident that I have not made, just hinted at, that caused him to leave the FBI and go into personal security. And when that failed, he tried to be construction and he sucked at it.
And so, okay, so we're starting off with the guardian's been accused of murdering Laura's mom, and we're going to find that out immediately, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so that's your inciting incident of they've set up this detective agency. Guardian comes in and it's like, hey, they think I murdered your mom.
Yep.
What else do you know?
Well, they do accept the case. I think that's also important because they might not have looked very short if they didn't. They do accept the case. I know that he is upstanding. I think through the first book, he's shown himself to be very honorable. He's just recently left the force, and that's part of his cover or part of what was going on with who's accusing him of murdering the mom. And what else do I know?
Well, so do you know what the big conflict is going to be, or do you know where it's going to end? Have you worked that stuff out at least kind of in your mind in big picture form?
I think this one, what I've been struggling with, so this is where I could use the help on, is it feels like I have to work through the threads of why after 15 years would they accuse Doug, who is the guardian, of this murder? What are they gaining from that, right? Why wait the 15 years? Why now? And how are they in the right place to be accused of murder, right? I mean, it's 15 years ago. How could you even make that stick without some very, compelling evidence that's somewhere? So I felt like I needed to understand the motive of the bad guy to kind of, work me into how this would all go down.
And is there a bad guy?
One single. Well, okay, so I have lots of ideas that are kind of floating all around. Everything from, there's a relationship between Doug and her mom, and a guardian type relationship. I have sort of an underground ferry escape railroad kind of thing going on, and they were using the animal shelter to bring people through. But even all of that, I still can't quite connect this guy. So let's call him a guy who wants to bring Doug down. What's his motivation? And so, and I've had ideas about okay, could it be Doug as guardian of an object? Could it be that they're trying to get Laura to sort of recognize who she is because it brings out all of her past and her relationship with her family through that investigation? So like I said, that's the part that I'm struggling with. And I've had lots of kind of ideas all over the place, but nothing's stuck. It's all, kind of. So let's say, yes, it's a guy. Let's run with that as our premise. It's a guy.
Okay. So, and I think Nancy started off with the exact right spot of definitely from what you're saying, because you already know the other main characters. We got to start with the bad guy.
Right.
Because we got to know his motivation to find out how it ties into Doug and how their goals are going to be opposing each other and all of that. So if we have a big bad guy, BBG, BBG, we have big bad guy. Is he going to be supernatural or is he human?
I'm going to go supernatural because I think that's more fun.
And Laura has supernatural powers of some kind, and it sounds like she doesn't know them yet, maybe?
I think it's going to end up going down that path, that she does have something that's special about her. She was able to sort of, some of the key pieces she was able to see in the first book kind of hint that she's able to see a little bit deeper into people than most people can see.
I mean, you know better than I do. Maybe in fantasy, that's a pretty common trope, right? Like that's something readers look for, to have your protagonist be like the one, or the special one.
It's a common trope. I worry that it's a little like too cliche, but I'm going to go with it for now and see how it all plays out.
I think that's part of the promise of the genre, but I don't know. I don't read a ton of fantasy, but everything I've ever read has had that element to it.
You're the one.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we have to have you. So if we take Doug, is Doug human or is Doug supernatural?
I'm going to go with Doug is human because I think that adds an interesting, but I think her mom is supernatural.
Okay.
And I'm sorry to back up and interrupt. Who's Todd? Is he the FBI guy or is Doug the FBI guy?
He's the Doug is a previous sheriff and her guardian, Laura's guardian. Todd is her partner in crime, kind of in the previous book, and an ex-FBI agent. Laura and Todd started the agency together, the detective agency together. Yep.
Okay.
I know you kind of yeah.
And is there going to be romance between Laura and Todd? Or are we keeping this?
I mean, right now, Todd was a little bit of a commitment phobe and kind of found her attractive, but hadn't really gone anywhere. I think that's how that previous book ends. I'm okay with some romance, but not like, it's not the focus of the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we're working from our big bad guy, we need to figure out what Doug could have that could be a threat to this guy where he needs to take Doug out now.
Right.
And
it can't be stolen or tricked out of him, right? Because why would you accuse someone of murder? Yeah.
Right. And it can't just be, well, I walk up to his house, he opens, delivering pizza, I shoot him when he opens the door, and that solves my problem. So why can't he kill Doug? Yep. What does he want from Doug? And why now? So those are your three.
Those are my three. And I'm kind of intrigued with the concept that they're sort of indirectly getting at Laura, and that by putting Doug in this position that they're forcing Laura to face her past. So she's got kind of this weird, like the gingerbread cabin that's not in her mom's name. I mean, that's kind of weird. So I like that angle to it, that it's sort of an indirect attack to Laura. And it might not even necessarily be an attack, but like force her to see reality.
So see that, and that in my mind shifts to, okay, I think Doug should have some kind of power or something, because if he's Laura's guardian and you find out he's like really Laura's guardian, like he's been protecting her from these bad guys, then maybe they can't kill him because he has
power.
Powers.
That's the motivation to get him out of the way so they can get to her. If he's magically protecting her in some way and they can't touch him magically, maybe they're going to use the regular old legal system to move him out of the way. Maybe he has to be in physical proximity to her in some way in order to protect her. And so if they can send him to jail, then they can, I don't know.
And another one of those tropes is like a cold iron and things like that. So if he's in a literal jail cell where he's surrounded by, that might actually break up whatever magical field of protection he's got. So,
I like that.
Yeah.
And so if, hold on, writing. So I like what Nancy just said about, okay, they're going to use just the regular legal system because they can't go for whatever reasons you could come up with the laws of the world, that they can't go at him directly, but maybe because then we have to go back to, okay, why would they accuse him specifically of killing her mother? And I think if one of the things that would be very important there is if they're trying to separate him physically and emotionally.
Right.
What if he really did kill her mother?
I did think of that, and I've had ideas of love triangles and Laura's really his daughter and not her dad's daughter kind of thing, adding in some twisty stuff. So I'm open to all of those ideas because I haven't nailed any of that down now. So whatever makes the better story. he does
Yeah.
act like her dad. Sorry, go ahead, Dawn.
No. Well, I was just going to say, because I know the other book, that if he did kill her mother, it's going to have to keep consistent with his character. It would have to be he killed her to save Laura. Or,
right. Or accidental, or to save her soul kind of thing could work.
Well, because I mean, I come from a romance point of view, so I'm always looking at the dark moment the way that I see it. But that could create a really awesome dark moment if she ends up finding out that, in fact, it's legitimate. Like, he actually did murder her mother, but he had a reason. Like, and it was to protect her in some magical way, or who knows what.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that could.
Well, and that would also be, I like it for the dark moment, because yes, that would be a deep, dark,
That would be dark.
My world has ended moment. That would also fit, depending on how you wanted the story to go from there, that would also fit at your midpoint where everything flips over. And so if she's been going, if you start off with they take the case and she's working on the I have to prove Doug innocent, I have to prove Doug innocent, I have to prove Doug innocent, and then you get to the midpoint and it's suddenly Doug's not innocent.
I have to understand why. I have to understand why. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that could go either way, depending on how long you wanted the story to be and what other factors you wanted to bring in.
Right.
And okay, so working backwards a little bit, where do you want it to end up? Do you want it to end up, obviously we want it to end up, well, I won't say that. Do we want Doug to live? Do we want Doug to die? Do we want Laura to embrace her powers? Do we want Laura to reject Doug? I mean, and
right.
Okay, so
and I'm like, I love the romance genre because of like the happy endings kind of thing. And so I like my books to have a happy ending. Justice needs to be served, you know, and people are going to suffer because, you know, it's fiction. But
someone will die.
Right. They're not necessarily all going to die. So I like the concept of her having to reforge a relationship with him, knowing his past.
I like that.
And maybe, like he has to be more like, maybe he was her mom's guardian. And then to transfer that power and to save her, like he did have to kill her. I mean, I could see, and maybe she
that.
You have to do this now. It's the only way to get them off us. Whoever them are.
Yes. The BBGs.
The BBGs.
Yeah. I like the mom being complicit with her own murder. I like that.
Yeah. And then I started thinking, like, the strategic comes out, Dawn, like, okay, well, how does the guy know? How do they know? Like, how do they know this happened? Unless he was somehow, you know, the reason or involved in the reason for why she had to die at all.
I've got some things for that. So.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
So if we're going with, see, I see all these little ropes tying together in my brain. Yeah. So if we're going with, so Doug was mom's guardian, and mom's like, you have to protect Laura, and you have to get rid of me to protect Laura. So you got to get rid of me because the big bad guys are coming. And then the big bad guys get there, and then they are going to know somehow from the evidence that's there or whatever.
There's no longer magic in her blood. There's you know, I mean, any sort of thing that you could, you need thing.
If you're weaving this into, these are supernatural beings who look like normal humans, that their powers, so there's going to be supernatural beings on the police force. There's going to be, and so you could go with, because Doug was the sheriff, of somebody on his team betrayed him.
Oh, yeah.
And shared information with these other beings, or they picked up some kind of vital piece of evidence from the scene. Like they arrive, mom's dead. They're like, the only person who could have done this had to be superpower, other magical being. It had to have been Doug.
It had to have been Doug.
And then they pick up something, some kind of calling card that can incriminate him.
Okay, so this might be totally not a good idea, but like, so in the first book, there was a part where the bad lady Kate was going through, remember she was frisking his house, and there was that picture that had something in the back that she left there. What if she took it and gave it to someone?
See, that would work.
What if and it's not, I mean, it's not like, hey, I confess I killed you, but I mean, whatever it is. Could that work? Because I keep going back to that why now, right? She's not like 18. She's not like a significant age unless I make up that she's turning 21 and that's significant and that's fine. But it feels a little like, okay, why now?
Okay, we got to back up for a minute.
Oh, fine. Okay. Yeah.
Because everybody else doesn't know this. Can I talk a little bit about the opening scene in the first book and why she cannot just be turning 21?
Yeah.
Because she's going to a cabin to engage in adult activities.
Yeah. Yeah.
The word teen comes up.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, no, she can't just be turning 21. And so we know that, giving away a couple of things from the first book, we know that Kate was a supernatural.
Yes, a changeling.
And if she took that evidence and could get it to somebody, because if you think of the supernatural world having organized crime the same way that our world does, then that would be a way that it could all be connected.
Yep.
Or then that's a little like, you'd have to prove that the world was really, really connected for that to work. And so the other thing would be Kate made the news when her thing doesn't work out. And now all of a sudden they've opened up this detective agency, which talks about the supernatural. So there could be spies that the word has spread. Now they know where Laura's at. And now it's time to move in.
Right.
Or, some kind of magical alignment of the planets is happening, and
when those happen. So
yes, you got to have your ticking clock.
And just to throw one idea in that you totally don't have to use, but what if her mom's not dead?
I don't think about that. Like, what if she's in stasis, or what if she's like a different dimension? Like, with the Fae, they've got their own world that they kind of go into that got a different time than what the human world does. So I did think about something like that. Which would be really weird if her mom was a lot younger than she expected her to be when she popped back out. But anyway.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Let's all go there.
Yeah, I like.
I feel bad for Todd. Does he have a role here?
I know. I was thinking, yeah. Not yet. He's just gonna be.
Well, I think if so many things to play with. So if mom's not dead,
yeah,
that could go in a whole other direction there. But I think with Todd, and Mary and I have talked about this, of it being a slow burn over several books, if they're going to end up having a relationship. But if you she no longer has Doug. Like when she finds out, whether you use it at the midpoint or at the dark moment, when she finds out that Doug is not who she thinks he is, and she's been lied to, and Doug killed her mom, that's a perfect opportunity for her to really start relying on Todd.
Right.
And Todd's a good guy. He's a good character.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And I did have a thought of, does something from his past also surface? Because when he left, right, if he, like to your point, Nancy, he's just kind of hanging out in the background going, can I have some coffee? And really, he should probably be like involved with it. If they have a detective agency, they could have more than one case. Could have something that kind of, works something from his past I mean, I know it has to all kind of come together because that's the way fiction makes sense. But yeah, so could that be something that goes in? And I don't think that the favor that, the previous guy owes him from the book, I don't think that's going to come into play in this book.
No, I don't think it should either.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a thing that happens where they end up owing somebody something, but they owe a guy for the thing, but that thing Couldn't wait till later. So, okay, so what have we established?
Just the last thing too then is the father, right? Because she also has her father that she was really with the animal shelter that he ran. There's also potentially some threads that could go through there. And, you know, Nancy pointing out, he's dead too. He died of sort of grief because of the mom passing. So which would be kind of tragical if she was still alive and he's dead, which would
very
be
tragical.
Yeah. So.
But that makes it a lot worse when she's going to find out that Doug's the one who killed her mom, because that's going to be an even bigger betrayal of you took my mom and by default you took my dad.
And then you took me.
Right. And then
yeah. So in my mind, what if we established it's that I need to probably do some journaling or some scenes from the bad guy's point of view, and maybe even a scene with like when they come across whatever they find with her mom, what does that look like? Like, are they actually at the scene and that's how they discover that, oh, the magic's gone from her blood, or insert whatever here? That seems like a good, because without that motivation, it doesn't, it won't quite gel.
Right. I think the key to this is finding the bad guy's motivation and finding, I think you need two goals. You need the bad guy's goal of, and I think we set that up pretty good, because I like the goal of they're trying to separate Laura from Doug. And like you were pointing out with the whole, if he's in an actual prison where there are actual bars, he's no longer useful. But trying to separate Laura from Doug, and then he has the bad guy has to have some kind of goal related to Laura.
Right.
Like she has to be a key component to his nefarious plan.
Right.
So,
and whether it's taking over the world or, she's
is this in the real world? I mean, I understand it's supernatural, but I'm asking because are prisons made out of bars anymore, or are they more likely to be like block cement?
Don't they have rebar going through that though with the
Probably. Yeah. I don't know. As long as there's iron somewhere in the structure, you're good.
Or did you guys ever see Willow? And in the beginning with the one character where he's in that cage and he's like sitting there and Willow lets him out even though he shouldn't, and it's like the cage that's around. So Doug could end up in something like that. Just right.
I don't think that's going to be in an American prison, but I've never been to prison, so I don't know.
Yeah, I would have to research that and see if that's even a thing. You're right now, because it is kind of today, kind of us, except there's a little bit of a shadow kind of going on with where the supernatural fits in. So, yep.
And then I think with hold on. I think also you're going to have, you've got Laura's goal of, I need to find out if Doug killed my mother or not. So Laura has a goal. I think Todd's going to need some kind of goal too.
Right. Or he's having coffee, like Nancy pointed out.
Or Todd gets called out of town on some case.
Right.
I'm just going to go.
Yeah. You've got this. I have another cabin to go to try and fix. So, yes, he's definitely going to do some kind of goal. Yeah.
Do you feel better about this? Do you see any other huge gaps?
Yeah. No, I think I also need to figure out that, like, the threading thing. So I still need to know what the relationship is between her mom and dad and Doug, and whether, like, if we have that he's the guardian. Well, is her dad also kind of supernatural, or is he sort of a disguise for what was going on? So he wasn't really truly in the know. And then I do have to make that decision about, is she alive or not? Like, is her mom really dead, or just not quite dead? Or is she undead? Dawn, I could bring her back as an undead. That's what I do her. Come on,
I'm adding to my notes. Is mom zombie?
Mom zombie.
Oh boy.
And now y'all see what our Friday afternoon calls are like.
Absolutely.
I just have to say, because I know Doug's character from the previous book, I think it's going to fit more if he's some kind of like universal guardian and he was guarding her mom, and not that he had any kind of romantic relationship with her mom.
Yep. Those never felt right when we walked through those. Yeah, they never felt right.
And just because of the way he's set up, he's not set up as the type that was like, yeah, me and your mom were having an affair. He's set up more like the grandpa type figure over in the corner. So
yeah, but you never know what grandpa did before.
But if he's like some ancient being whose purpose is guardianship, and maybe he's had lots of, I don't know what the opposite of guardian is.
Clients?
Charge or client?
Wards.
Yeah.
Wards. Yeah, he's had hundreds of them.
I mean, does that imply it's a bloodline thing? Or does that imply that, like, does it have any sort of implications if we go down that path?
She's like the one. What is she? Where does she fit in this magical world? Is she like an empress or something?
What if she's meant to be the next guardian?
Oh, interesting.
But wait. But was her mother also meant to be the next guardian? Because why was he guarding her then?
No, she's not meant to be the next guardian. We had to kill her off.
I know.
So
his job is to guard like a certain magical type of special person. Was her mother also that kind of magical special person? And if so, then why did he kill her? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure if that works.
I'm going to agree with Nancy on that.
Monsters versus Alien. Did you guys ever see Monsters versus Aliens?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it's a kids movie. Sorry, I have young kids, so I've seen all sorts of kids movies. But one of the things that I loved about that is she was sort of imbued with this power from the that hit her. And she becomes Ginormica, I think is what they call her. So what if her mom was imbued with this magical power, not from an asteroid, but unless you want to, zombie bite, whatever. And when she died, it had to be passed on. And what if it didn't go to Laura? And that's part of what they're trying to look for is this, this power that can be infused into a person to make them be the one. And I don't know if this is a good idea. This is what we do all the time. You're like, does that work or is that stupid?
So the power doesn't go into Laura, you're saying?
What if it didn't? Does that make it more or less interesting? And then she could become a guardian? Or is that like...
So Laura's not actually the one. They're, as we say in Texas, barking up the wrong tree.
They're barking up the wrong tree.
And then the third book could be them trying to find the one.
The one. Her unknown half-brother. I don't know. Whatever.
Where did the magic go?
Where did magic go?
No.
So I think showing what a coaching session is like, working with a new story, this is what a coaching session is like, is a lot of ideas getting thrown around. And you have to be sure that you're not, as the editor, I'm not attached to any of these ideas because it's Claudia's story. And so we have had several coaching sessions where this is great. This is perfect. Okay. Yes. And then she starts writing it and is like, okay, no.
This doesn't work. And here's why. What do we do? What should I do?
Right. Yeah. And so you have to not be attached to that and let it go. Or if there's an idea that you are like fully... Doug has to be a guardian. We were going to use Doug as a guardian. He has to be a guardian. Then you have to be willing to take however many different paths you need to see how that's going to work best.
Yep.
And so
that's the stories that you would say, you'd ask me sometimes, you're like, well, what are you really attached to? What are the things that you love about the story that you're just not willing to give up? And you go, oh yeah, that's right. That's important to me. Everything else has to work with this.
Right. And when something's not working and you do have to sort of reposition the whole thing, that's important to figure out.
Yeah. I'm excited. Now I'm excited about the story again.
Good. Oh, good. Well, and that's the best part. Hopefully that's the best part of coaching is to kind of rediscover the energy that you had when you came up with the idea for the story in the first place and kind of refocus you on how to make it happen. Because having a great idea is great. But if you can't execute or you're just not sure where to go, you lose that energy and then no story happens.
Yep.
Right. Well, and we've worked too, and this is another part of the coaching of when you are, this story's great, this story's great, this story's great, I am stuck.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's just a matter of building a bridge. That is a matter of, I'm here, I want to go here, I don't know how to get here. And so that's where Nancy and I can help with, okay, you could do this, you could do that, you could do this, you could do that. According to story structure, you should be at the point, like you should be at your midpoint, or you should have a pinch point here, or you should be at your really, really dark moment. And your dark moment's just kind of dim. So let's throw in a ninja, whatever needs to happen there.
Yeah. Or zombie.
Or zombie. Yeah, depending on your genre. We've got several different things. So,
yeah.
And as I always end up my story coaching with, so I will put these notes in a nice logical form and put them in a Google Doc for you.
Oh, thank you.
And we will work on them from there.
Oh.
Do we have any questions?
I don't see any, but we can give people a couple minutes. If you have a question about story coaching, how it works, where to find it, that sort of thing, feel free to throw it in the comments now, or you can always hit us after we're off, not live anymore. So Claudia, before we move forward with what's going on with story strategy next week, will you tell us how people can find you? Do you have a website or?
ClaudiaBlood.com.
There you go. That's easy. Okay. And we have a sort of similar session coming next week, Dawn. We have one more person who said that they would love to do coaching live. So we're going to talk with her about, I think it's a romantic comedy she's working on, and she needs to amp up the humor, she thinks. So we're going to hopefully she may send us some stuff to read ahead, because I wasn't sure how that would work without having seen a little bit. So we'll figure that one out as it gets closer. And then after that, what do we have?
So next week we have the other coaching session. And then on September 17th, we have Eva Charles, who is going to be talking to us about dark romance, writing dark heroes, writing heroes that start off appearing dark and you find out they're really not that dark. We did want to kind of put a content warning on this just a little bit, because we are talking about romance. We are talking about some specific parts of romance. So you might not want to have your children walking through the room while we're saying some of this stuff, because we're all adults and we will, keep things as clean as we can. But it's going to have to go in some areas that if you're, 7-year-olds coming up and asking for help with spelling words, that's probably not the time.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Brooke and Julie. Very nice comments. Those were not questions, but we'll take them.
Thank you, Brooke and Julie. Thank you. So that's what we have coming up. Is we have her on the 17th.
Our online classes always, and coaching is on the same page at our Teachable page. Oops, did I cut out? You guys both just
cut out, so we don't know what you just said. You have to say it again now.
It wasn't important. I was saying that you know where to find us at our Teachable page, and that's where our coaching sessions are as well. So if you're interested in doing that, you can sign up there and find the calendars and schedule a session.
Well, and I think we need to point out, do you have to click the all classes button? If you don't see the coaching when you go to Story Strategies or Evident Inc. Story Strategy courses, there's an all classes button that you have to click and it'll drop down the coaching for you.
Up at the top, yeah.
Up at the top.
Hopefully, if you have any trouble, come find us and we'll help you find it.
Yes.
All right.
What we got?
I think that's it for us. I don't have any phase out music. We'll have to work on that next. I've just got the intro.
We got the intro music. That's exciting. So, and thank you very much, Claudia, for being very brave and playing with us. Thank you. We appreciate
My pleasure.
that.
You ladies were amazing. Thank you so much for help on the story.
You're welcome. I hope it did help. I can't wait to read it.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, we'll say goodnight and see you next week.